All right, man, peace. You know, brothers, many months ago, I did a video on Floyd Mayweather called Heavy is the Head That Wears the Crown. And in light of many of the more recent occurrences revolving around Floyd Mayweather, I decided to do a sequel to that video because I think that it is pertinent. This video right here, or this installment in the series, is going to revolve around Floyd's interactions with Mr. Oscar De La Hoya. And it's just going to show you that once again, if you're able to ascend to a certain level of affluence, people are going to be envious of you. And one of the main tactics that envious people utilize is to try to project their jealousy, their envy on you, even though you're the person who's in a more prominent position. And that oftentimes is the tactic that Oscar De La Hoya uses on Floyd Mayweather, because he's trying to siphon a lot of the energy that naturally emanates off of Mayweather to himself. Because as of right now, Oscar De La Hoya is still scrambling to remain relevant in the boxing world. Even though he is the head of his own promotional company, he pretty much just has one real commodity, that being Canelo Alvarez. And that is why you'll hear Oscar oftentimes try to talk up a Canelo versus Floyd rematch, even though he knows that that's never going to happen. He does understand the common sentiment out there that is propagated by the media about Floyd, that being that he's a quote-unquote coward. So you can always go that angle whenever you want to use Floyd to promote your own fighter. But there are many components that are involved in the issues between Floyd Mayweather and Oscar De La Hoya. So I'm just going to cover a few while we go through this segment here. So anyway, they're going to talk about it and I'm going to chime in.
All right, moving on to Floyd Mayweather, who is going hard after Oscar De La Hoya. Some say...
Well, no, not really. What happened is, and of course, this story is something that first originated months ago. Well, no, actually, it's not that Floyd Mayweather is quote-unquote going hard at Oscar De La Hoya. He actually was responding to something inflammatory that Oscar De La Hoya said about him. And you'll find that 98% of the time that Floyd Mayweather actually is saying something quote-unquote distasteful or vitriolic about somebody else is normally in response to what they've said about him. For the most part, Floyd Mayweather has not initiated any real trash talk since he was released from prison back 5 years ago. Now, prior to that, he was a shit starter. But pretty much since then, his trash talk has been in response to what somebody else has said and not in an attempt to initiate anything. But anyway, Floyd Mayweather was trying to maintain a certain level of decorum and respectful conversation in reference to De La Hoya. And De La Hoya, as usual, because he's still bitter that Richard Schaefer was actually the person who was running the day-to-day operations of Golden Boy Promotions while Oscar was going through one of his bevy of addictive issues to drugs and alcohol. Well, Floyd Mayweather and Al Heyman were able to get Richard Schaefer to leave Golden Boy Promotions, and that hamstrung Oscar De La Hoya for a long period of time. So that's one of the reasons why they don't like one another. And that's one of the reasons why every once in a while, Oscar De La Hoya will try to fire off shots at Floyd Mayweather.
Say he crossed a line, a very personal line that he should not have crossed. Earlier today, Floyd Mayweather posted a photo that we are not going to show you here, but you've probably already seen because it's all over the internet.
Of course, it's something that we've seen a long time ago. The photo that this person is referring to is the photo of Oscar De La Hoya dressed in drag. And it's nothing sensational. Everybody's seen it. The man, and I put man in quotes, had on fishnets and lingerie and high heels. And for many years, Oscar De La Hoya tried to act as if that was not him, that it was photoshopped. But yes, it was really him. And as I've told you, brothers, for a very long period of time, you do not know any of these top-level entertainers. We don't even know Floyd Mayweather. What we know about him is that he's a transcendent fighter. But once you get to that level, they pretty much all are worshippers of Pan, Baal, Bacchus, the mother goddess, etc. Believe it or not. And they are pansexuals.
Of Oscar De La Hoya dressed up in fishnet stockings and high heel shoes. He posted this on his social media account and he told his fans, quote, 11 years ago, I fought her and her name is Oscar Golden Girl De La Hoya. Please leave the most...
And once again, Oscar De La Hoya got that name Golden Boy from his time period in the Olympics in 1992. And that truly was the genesis of a lot of the antipathy between himself and Floyd Mayweather. Because when Oscar De La Hoya, for those of us who remember, when he competed in the 1992 Olympics in Barcelona, of course, that was the renowned Olympics that was known for the Dream Team. Well, Oscar De La Hoya started off his trajectory to fame in Barcelona as well. And the narrative, the storyline behind him was that his mother had died. He was the little pretty boy Mexican dude who was boxing for the United States, and he went on to win gold. So thereafter, he was known as the Golden Boy. Well, interestingly enough, if I remember correctly, one of the names for Hermes was the Golden Boy. That's neither here nor there. Point being is this: after the Olympics, he pretty much rocketed to fame when Bob Arum, being the promotional genius that he is, pretty much took the blueprint from how they built up Sugar Ray Leonard and adapted it to Oscar De La Hoya. Oscar De La Hoya basically was promoted as the Mexican Sugar Ray Leonard, the so-called pretty boy that attracted the women, had the great smile, everybody loved him. And Bob Arum was able to create this energy around De La Hoya to where even if he lost the fight, he was still as marketable. Very similar to Ray Leonard.
Most disrespectful caption you can think of, which is an awful thing for Floyd Mayweather to do. It is shaming on a whole. I mean, I understand this crap talking and fighting and all the stuff he did with Conor McGregor. This to me seems like it has crossed the line.
Well, as we can see, there's a social engineering tactic that's utilized by the mainstream media, particularly the entertainment media, to make sure that they shame men into believing that a cross-dresser, a transgender, a homosexual, a lesbian, bisexual, and now a pansexual is a regular person, that there's nothing wrong with them per se, and that there's no deviation from normality when you decide that you're going to partake in that life choice. That is the agenda of the mainstream media. Once again, for you brothers, you must understand the energy that is around you and trying to permeate into your subconscious. At the end of the day, you make your own choices, but there are going to be consequences for the choices that we all make. But once again, that is the agenda of the mainstream media, to embarrass people, particularly adults, but especially children, because they know that children are like pieces of clay to be molded. They're going to have a far less hard of a time convincing children that there's nothing wrong with being fluid with your sexuality than they are the older generations. Their attitude towards the older generations is, we're basically going to try to shame them. With the children, we're going to teach them through cartoons and through employing super liberal Luciferian teachers in the school system. And of course, Floyd Mayweather decided that he was going to display the photo of Oscar De La Hoya dressed in drag, and now they're trying to shame him for that.
To me, it definitely seems like it's crossed the line because, once again, you can come at Floyd all you want. You can come at Oscar all you want. But there's a larger group that you offend when you conduct yourself the way Floyd Mayweather conducts himself on the internet.
Absolutely.
And as you can see, the super liberal, so-called woke Negro, Van Lathan, and this is what I tell you brothers all the time. When it comes to the woke Negro, the super liberal Negro, yes, they're going to have that racialist altar where they, quote-unquote, try to speak up for their race. But they also have to hold hands with the homosexual movement, the lesbian movement, the bisexual movement, and the transgender movement. And the focus, of course, is always on the so-called black community. The onus is always placed on the so-called black community to accept this notion, this false premise that the so-called black community is quote-unquote homophobic. And once again, I don't think that there's a less homophobic quote-unquote community in America than the so-called black community. In almost every quote-unquote hood that you go to, you're going to see lesbians everywhere. All right? Everywhere you're going to see lesbians. And oftentimes they're walking up and down the block trying to mean mug, trying to intimidate men or young boys. So that's why, once again, the onus is going to be on the so-called black man to take back his community. That's all it's about. That's all it's ever going to be about. Okay, so now we're going to jump ahead to Oscar De La Hoya's response to a lot of the jibes that were put forth to him by Floyd Mayweather. Just to give a little background context to the rivalry between the two men, of course, they're competitive. They're in a super competitive field, that being professional boxing, or at least they were. But as I was saying, Oscar De La Hoya, he first started out his road to fame in the 1992 Olympics. He won the gold medal. He went under the umbrella of Bob Arum, who promoted him exceptionally well. Now, Floyd Mayweather followed behind him in the 1996 Olympics, I believe in Atlanta. And Floyd Mayweather was only able to receive the bronze medal. For those of us who follow the amateur boxing program or the Olympic boxing program, Floyd Mayweather is renowned for having been quote-unquote robbed in the gold medal bout against the, I believe the fighter was from an Eastern European country. Anyway, all you have to do is watch the fight, and you see that Floyd Mayweather won the fight. But, for whatever reason, they gave it to the other combatant. It is what it is. Floyd in the 1996 Olympics was also the first fighter, I believe, since Sugar Ray Leonard to defeat a Cuban in the Olympics, which he was able to successfully do. Well, due to the fact that Floyd did not get the gold medal, he was marketed a tad bit differently, even though all of the legendary fighters of the previous 15 years knew who Floyd Mayweather was and what he was going to be, even from his time in the amateur program. If you look at Floyd's first fight in the Olympics, you know who was there to watch him? Pernell Whitaker. If you've ever seen Floyd Mayweather's first fight as a professional, you know who came to the fight to watch him? Sugar Ray Leonard. So they all knew about Floyd Mayweather. They knew his dad, of course, being an exceptional trainer. But Floyd was not happy with how he was marketed by Bob Arum. And he was always trying to compare how Bob promoted him with how Bob promoted Oscar De La Hoya. So there was a bit of jealousy there for Oscar De La Hoya from Floyd. But it was a semi-healthy level of quote-unquote jealousy because he knew within his heart that he had the same skills as Oscar. Now, what Bob Arum would tell Floyd is that I'm not going to market you how I market De La Hoya because as a so-called black fighter, you're not going to have the fan base of Oscar De La Hoya. Floyd Mayweather never believed that. And ironically enough, Oscar De La Hoya and Floyd Mayweather both ended up leaving Bob Arum for the same reason. They both felt like they were leaving money on the table and they were being lied to. And it was only after they both left and struck out on their own that they were able to optimize their earning potential.
All right, moving on to Oscar De La Hoya. Yesterday, Floyd Mayweather posted a very inappropriate photo of Oscar De La Hoya, one that's been making the rounds on the internet.
Now, of course, this was at the press conference for the first Floyd Mayweather-Oscar De La Hoya fight. Well, I should say the only Floyd Mayweather-Oscar De La Hoya fight because they never fought a rematch, even though they both wanted to. The issue is that for the rematch, Floyd wanted to get paid more than Oscar. Oscar was the one handling the negotiations, and he tried to screw Floyd over, so Floyd just stayed retired. But they actually were supposed to fight in 2008. They were very near cementing the contract for their rematch that was supposed to take place in 2008. But once again, Oscar De La Hoya tried to screw Floyd over because he understood that that's part of the mental warfare. Even if Floyd beat you in the first fight, you make him think that you deserve more money in the second fight because you're the quote-unquote draw. Remember, at that time, Floyd Mayweather was basically unproven as a draw on his own. He'd only fought, I believe, maybe 5 times on pay-per-view. He fought Gotti, he fought Zab Judah, he fought Baldomir, he fought Oscar, and he fought Ricky. So yes, he fought 5 times on pay-per-view. And the only 2 fights that he was a major draw were the De La Hoya fight and also the Ricky Hatton fight. If I remember correctly, the De La Hoya fight drew something like 2.4 million pay-per-view buys. The Ricky Hatton fight, I think, drew something like 800,000. So Oscar basically was trying to use that as proof that he was the main draw, even though that 800,000 for the Ricky Hatton fight was probably more than any other fighter had drawn that year other than the Floyd-Oscar De La Hoya fight. Point being is this: Floyd believed in himself. Floyd always believed in himself. And that's the main reason why there once again grew that energy of anger and malice between Floyd and Oscar, because there can be only one king. And then on top of that, you also had the variable of Oscar being trained by Floyd's father. Floyd's father threatened to teach Oscar De La Hoya how to beat Floyd, and Floyd Sr. actually wanted to train Oscar De La Hoya for the mega fight against his son. That created even more of a rift between Floyd Jr. and Floyd Sr., and of course between Floyd and Oscar. So there's a lot of reasons for those issues between Floyd and Oscar that you'll see crop up every once in a while. Like, once every year and a half or so, you'll see Oscar and Floyd going back and forth with one another over some social media, channel or page or website or what have you, because they have a lot of issues going back 25 years or so, to be honest with you. And Oscar, from afar, even back in the 90s, always was an admirer of Floyd Mayweather Jr.'s style. That's why he hired Floyd Mayweather Sr. to train him in the first place, to teach him the slickness and the defense, so on and so forth. So Floyd always wanted Oscar's fame. Oscar always wanted Floyd's skills.
that for years.